Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to take a look at the state of villainy in the MCU as we close out Phase 4. Now, a couple days ago, I did the state of heroism, so it makes sense I would follow it with the state of villainy. But also, a couple months ago, I did an earlier version of this video, and it got a lot of views, which was great, but more importantly, it got a lot of comments. I love all the comments, I read them all, and I applied them all. And so, even if you watched the original State of Villainy video, I think you'll like this one. Because I have some new categories for the villains, as well as the ones from before. So we start off with the dead. Anytime you see an X, that means the villain has died. At least as far as we can tell, they are truly dead. However, I will point out, I leave them as alive if you don't see the dead body. If you don't see the body, then they're probably still alive. But I did create a new category called on probation. So basically, this is symbolized by a gray oval, meaning like a GPS tracking unit around your ankle. Hello, Scott Lang and Ant-Man and the Wasp, right? This case, you're no longer villainous. You've stopped being a villain, but you haven't really done a heroic act yet. You haven't turned that page. It's kind of the gray area between being a villain and being reformed. So anyone that's reformed gets the yellow halo, meaning they're no longer villainous and they have also performed a heroic act. Then I added this new symbol, a red square, that will basically say this is your second appearance or more in a movie or show. That really helps with the counters. And then I also have added this like red dotted line square to indicate you're a variant from another universe, because oh man, the variants are popping up everywhere. So, with these things in mind, let's dive right into the state of villainy in the MCU. Now, what I did is, for the most part, I go in release order for the movies and shows. However, for the three prequel movies, Captain America, Captain Marvel, and Black Widow, I did go ahead and put them in as best as I could chronological order. Because there's some times where villains appear in these movies and then appear later, and it makes more sense to have the prequel movies in the right location. So with that in mind, we start with Captain America. Now, Captain America gave us the Red Skull, Heinz Kruger, and Arnim Zola. And by the end of the movie, one had died and two were alive. All right, then Captain Marvel. Lots of cool villains in Captain Marvel. We got Jan Rog, we got Minerva, we got the rest of his squad. We got Ronan, we got Korath, we got the Supreme Intelligence, and Talos. Now, Talos, I am considering a villain at the start because, he did strap Captain Marvel to that torture device to try to get information from her. I know why he did it. It was preservation, and he hated the Kree. But still, that was pretty mean. However, by the end of the movie, I do believe he is fully reformed, and also Minerva, unfortunately, dies. Kind of liked her character, but then again, the actress reappears as Cersei in Eternals, so, there's that. So that's Captain Marvel. All right, then we have Iron Man, the OG movie. We have Stain / Ironmonger, and we have Raza of the Ten Rings. And by the end of the movie, both of them have died. Then we have the Incredible Hulk. That brought us Abomination, General Ross, and Samuel Stearns, who by the end of the movie was transforming into the leader, but we never really got the culmination of it. Well, good news is, according to all the announcements that we've heard about Captain America New World Order, the leader's going to appear in all his grandiose green form in Captain America 4. So that's great. By the end of Incredible Hulk, all of the villains were still alive. All right, Iron Man 2 brought us Whiplash, brought us my man Justin Hammer. Any movie or TV show they want to put this dude in, I'm down with it. Love that guy. Absolutely love him. And then we have Senator Stern. Now, of course, he's not really a villain in Iron Man 2, but we know that he ends up being Hydra down the road, and once Hydra, always Hydra, so it kind of explains why he was a little sus throughout this movie. All right, so by the end, we have one dead and two alive. Then we have Thor. Thor has Loki and Laufey and the Destroyer and Sitwell, who, of course, also turns out to be Hydra. By the end of the movie, two dead and two alive. Yeah, of course, the Destroyer, he was really shut off or destroyed. We'll call him dead. It's just simpler. He's dead. All right, then we have Avengers. Avengers brought us Thanos, the Chitauri, the Other, Loki reappearing, and Sitwell reappearing. Now, at the end of the movie, all of them were alive, but notice the count only goes up by 3, and that's because, of course, Loki and Sitwell. This is their second appearance. So that's why that red square really helps with keeping track of these counts. But also, I was asked the question of, hey, what do you mean the Chitauri are alive? That they were wiped out by Iron Man. He sent that nuke through the portal and basically blew up the mothership. Well, there's two reasons I think the Chitauri are still alive after Avengers. One, I doubt the entire race, was on that mothership. I'm sure some of them were still on whatever the Chitauri planet is. More importantly, though, the Chitauri do appear in Endgame. And while I don't want to go too far into Endgame, because we'll get to that in a minute, if you remember, at least Endgame is in 2023. They go in the time heist back to 2014, and then Thanos, the Black Order, as well as the Chitauri come forward back to 2023. Well, since that's a branch off of the main 616 universe, there have to be Chitauri still alive in 2012, or there wouldn't be any in 2014. I hope that makes sense. Bottom line, though, is there have to be Chitauri left around after Avengers. All right, so Iron Man 3. We get Aldrich Killian, Maya, the Extremis folks, the fake Mandarin, and of course that poor vice president. That dude, he was just trying to help his daughter, but he was also willing to kill a bunch of people along the way. So, yeah, not the way to do it. Sorry, man. You're a villain. You're going to jail. Okay, so that means three deaths in Iron Man 3, and 2 folks are reformed, both the Mandarin and Maya. But unfortunately, we're going to see a pattern forming where if you're a villain and then you reform, often that leads to your death. At least it was a heroic death. It was a great way to go out, but it was a cool character. Kind of a bummer. All right. Then we have Thor the Dark World. Has Curse, has Malekith, and of course has the return of Loki. By the end, 2 of them dead, 1 still alive. Of course, Loki faked his death, but we knew he faked it, so yeah, we're marking him as still alive. Okay, Captain America the Winter Soldier. Now, finally, we get the big reveal that many of these folks, are Hydra. In particular, Sitwell coming back, and Stern coming back, and then we also meet Pierce. We meet, not Crossbones yet, because he's still Rumlow, and Rollins from his team, and Arnim Zola comes back, way from First Avenger. And we get Batrick being introduced, and of course Bucky as the Winter Soldier. And by the end, we have 3 deaths, and Bucky is reformed. Now, from a count standpoint, this one was really tricky, but the boxes help a lot. Notice that we have 3 dead, so the dead goes up by 3. But the alive count, even though there are 3 that are alive that haven't appeared in a previous movie, it only goes up by 1. That's because 2 of the returning characters die. Hope that makes sense. But basically, if you're a returning character and you die, you affect both the alive count and the dead count. So, wild. All right. Also, I had some people say on the previous video, hey, why are you saying Arnim Zola's dead? We saw from the What If episode that Arnim Zola was in that there are multiple copies of his AI. Great point. And that could only have been in that What If episode, or it could also be in 616. There's multiple copies. But number one, we know this version of Arnim Zola is definitely dead. It got bombed. And we haven't seen any other versions come forward so far. I kind of hope they do. I'd love to see him come back, that AI come back, but I'm kind of wondering if that was just in the What If universe or episode that there was multiple AIs. So for now, I'm calling him dead, but I'm fine if I end up being wrong. Okay, Guardians of the Galaxy. Great movie. We get Collector, we get Yondu, we get Korath and Ronan showing up again. We get Thanos showing up again, Nebula being introduced, and the other comes back. A lot of death. Several characters die. And Yondu, this gets interesting. Probation definitely is a case where you were a villain, and then you did something heroic, which Yondu did, so theoretically I should have put him in Reformed. But if you then continue to act sketch, then I'm keeping you in probation. And I'm keeping him there because at the end of the movie, he forces them to give him the Power Stone. Who knows what he would have done with that thing if he had gotten a hold of it? I mean, I can't imagine. He probably would have sold it to someone even worse than him. So, I mean, he almost was reformed, but then he moved back to probation. But don't worry, he will be reformed before the end. All right. So then we have Avengers Age of Ultron. Brought us Baron Stucker, Ultron, Claw without his claw, and Quicksilver and Wanda. And by the end, we had 2 dead and 2 reformed. But yet again, we see the theme that it's kind of tough to be reformed in the MCU because, unfortunately, Quicksilver dies. So, by the way, I will have something honoring all of the villains that die but reformed before their death. So, don't worry. That's not in the count down here, but I am keeping track of it, I promise. All right. So, that's Avengers Age of Ultron. All right. Then we move to Ant-Man. Now, Ant-Man has Yellow Jacket and Mitchell Carson. Mitchell was the one that stole the Pym particles at the end of the movie, was getting bitten by the ants, and had him in the suitcase. I really do think we're going to see him again, and those Pym particles are going to come back again, but we'll see. But at the end of the movie, I'm going to say both are alive. I originally thought Yellow Jacket was dead because it sure looked bad for him, but, if you don't see the body, right, and while it looked like he got mangled, he also got sent into the quantum realm. So what I've been hearing repeatedly is that in Ant-Man Quantumania, Ant-Man 3, that we will see him come back only as MODOK. So who knows? So for now, I'm going to put him as alive. I may be a mistake, but we're going to call him alive. All right. Captain America Civil War. Now we finally get Crossbones in all his glory. Well, for a little while, until he dies. Cool villain. That was a bummer. We get Zemo introduced, love Zemo, and now we get Secretary Ross, so finally reappearing in the MCU. We get one dead, and two of them continue to live at the end of the movie. Then we get Black Widow. Black Widow has Dreykov and Red Guardian, Melina and Taskmaster, Secretary Ross again, Val, and Yelena. Now, I'm putting Yelena here not because of the beginning of the movie, she wasn't able to control herself. I mean, she was under the Black Widow program control. However, at the end of the movie, she takes the information from Val, and sketch though it may be, she decides to go kill Hawkeye. That is villainous. So she gets the villain the category because of the end of the movie. So in the movie, we get one death, two folks being reformed, both Red Guardian and Melina. Taskmaster, I'm going to put Taskmaster on probation simply because she stopped being villainous, but didn't really do anything heroic. So we're on the fence, right? Plus, we know she's going to show up in Thunderbolts, so, probably needs to stay on probation. Val, you could almost move Val into villain category because she gave that bad information to Yelena, but you could argue maybe she didn't know it was bad information, and she didn't say go kill Hawkeye. That was Yelena's idea. So I'm going to leave Val on probation, that she's been pretty sketch, but we need to see, exactly how she's going to end up acting. All right, Doctor Strange. We have Dormammu, Cressilius, and Mordo. By the end, one dead, two alive. Now, you could argue Cressilius isn't actually dead. He's actually being tormented for all eternity in the Dark Dimension, but yeah, that's kind of worse than death. So we're just going to go with dead. Mordo is interesting. I'm calling him a villain because, as we learned in Multiverse of Madness, he's been trying to hunt down Doctor Strange ever since this first movie because, like he said, there's too many sorcerers. Now, theoretically, he was supposed to be killed in Multiverse of Madness. There was, whether it's a deleted scene or just deleted footage, Wanda was going to kill him. But since that didn't happen, it's probably not canon, so he's still out trying to hunt Doctor Strange. But yeah, totally a villain. Okay, then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We got Ego, we got Taserface, Aisha, Nebula comes back again, and then Yondu, still in, I believe, probation status, comes into the movie. By the end of the movie, we have two deaths, we have Nebula reformed, and absolutely Yondu's reformed. I mean, what he did was awesome, and unfortunately, what he did then leads to death. Boy, real recurring theme here. It is tough to be a villain, to reform, and then not to die. You kind of punch your ticket to death, I guess. All right, so then we move to Spider-Man Homecoming. Lots of cool villains. Shocker 1, Shocker 2, Vulture, Tinkerer, soon-to-be Prowler, I hope, and soon-to-be Scorpion, at least I hope. So by the end of the movie, one dead, everybody else alive. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not even going to include Morbius's end credit scene because that didn't happen. I'm just saying that did not happen. It's ridiculous. The spell doesn't work that way. He shouldn't have been sent to the Sony universe. It should have created an incursion according to the rules of Multiverse of Madness. Oi. In fact, wouldn't it be cool? Remember at the end of Multiverse of Madness where Doctor Strange and Clea are taking off to go fix the incursion that supposedly Doctor Strange created? Oh, I'd love it if that incursion was stinking Vulture going to the Sony universe. That would be awesome. Please bring him back. I'm sure it won't be, but that would be so cool. But anyway, as far as I'm concerned, that end credit scene didn't happen, and Vulture is still rotting in a prison in 616. Simple as that. All right, then we have Thor Ragnarok. So many cool villains. Surtur and Hela, Executioner, Fenris, Grandmaster, Valkyrie, Return of Loki, and Topaz. Wow. Unbelievable. But also a ton of carnage. 4 deaths, but 3 people reformed by the end of the movie, including Loki. Loki finally, after all these appearances, I believe, was officially can move to the reformed status. Unfortunately for Executioner, he ends up dying. So we're keeping this theme going. It's tough to be reformed in the MCU. Grandmaster, I had a few people on the previous video say, hey, didn't he die? That looked pretty bad for him. Well, number 1, we didn't see the body. And number 2, he has got such a silver tongue, I suspect he might have been able to get out of that. Maybe to convince him that, hey, they could get a bunch of money, or who knows, whatever they wanted. He's pretty clever, so I don't think he's dead. At least I sure hope not. I loved the Grandmaster. All right, then we have Black Panther. Black Panther brought us Killmonger and Jabu and M'Baku and Wakabi, and then Claw, this time with the Claw. Last time, no Claw. This time with the Claw. By the end of the movie, we ended up with 3 dead, 1 reformed. I really do think M'Baku was completely reformed by the end of this movie because, of course, he ends up leading Wakanda in Wakanda Forever. But, man, Wakabi, dude, I don't know. I think he's on probation because even in Wakanda Forever, where he didn't appear because the actor couldn't make it for the movie, I get that, but there was still an in-universe line that implied he's either in prison or exiled, or he's not. They have not reacquainted him into society. So yeah, he is on probation. All right, Avengers: Infinity War. Wow, brought us the Black Order. Brought us the Collector again, brought us another Thanos back again, brought us Ross back again, the Red Skull all the way back from Captain America First Avenger, and brought us Loki, who of course now is coming in a reformed status. Some people have asked, why did you consider the Red Skull a villain in this movie? Because he couldn't help himself. He was under the control of the Soul Spell, or the Soul Stone, theoretically. Yes, that is very possible, but also I think he was so evil, and that when the Space Stones sent him off into space at the end of First Avenger, and thus he was destined to be on Vormir and under the Soul Stone spell, I think it's because he was so evil that they did that. And I'm betting that whenever the Soul Stone spell wore off and he was able to leave, I presume, at the end of Infinity War, I think he went back to evil. So we'll see. I hope we see him again. We'll find out. Maybe I'm being too unfair, but I think he's evil. So at the end of the movie, we have lots of deaths, including poor Loki. But notice, not the Collector. It's funny. I had said originally in my previous video that I didn't think the Collector was dead because we didn't see the body. I mean, it looked bad, but it was an illusion that Thanos was showing of the Collector being killed. So my guess is that he worked his way out of it. He gave up what Thanos wanted, the Power Stone. As long as he gave it up, Thanos doesn't need to kill him. So I'm really happy that in the Guardians Holiday Special, they pretty much confirmed he must be alive because he ended up selling Nowhere to the Guardians after Infinity War. So he's got to be alive. So very cool. I admit I wasn't basing it on fact before when I said he was alive. I was basing it on passion because I really want him and Grandmaster to appear together. That would be so cool. They were always together in the comics. So, all right. Anyway, Ant-Man and the Wasp. That gave us Sonny Birch and Ghost and Goliath and Elias Starr. Elias Starr, of course, being Ghost's father. But more important, if you look at that cranium, he's Egghead. I mean, the Starr name is the secret identity, if you will, of Egghead in the comics. So, yeah, he didn't really officially become Egghead, but I'm going to call him a villain, if nothing else, for risking his daughter's life like he did with that crazy experiment. But anyway, so he may appear again. We may see him again. But for now, I am marking him as dead because he sure looked dead. And then Ghost and Goliath are interesting. I had some people say in the previous video, hey, why are you calling them a villain? So, okay, I'm going to move them to on probation. But the reason I can't call them reformed is they were willing to take that quantum particle device and steal it basically from Hank and Hope and Scott, which would have left Janet trapped forever. When if they would all just work together, maybe they could have come up with a solution to help Ghost and rescue Janet. So yeah, they were acting very selfishly. I'm calling them at best on probation for now. And of course, Ghost is going to end up showing up in Thunderbolts. So yeah, probably pretty much on probation. All right. Then we have Avengers Endgame. Oh my goodness, this one was nuts. Okay, so we get original Thanos. Then we get tons of variants. We get Thanos from 2014, and then Nebula, the Black Order, and the Chitauri, all from, again, 2014. So they're all variants, but again, that's why the Chitauri have to still be alive in 2012, or they wouldn't be alive in 2014. So the second row is all variants from 2014. The third row, then, we get Ross showing up at the funeral, which was very nice of him to do. And then we get several appearances from our favorites from the past, but they're all from the branches created during the time heist. I'm not going to go into great detail here. You can watch my time travel video, but I firmly believe that whenever they went back in time, it created a branch immediately. So when they ran into Sitwell and Pierce and Rollins and Rumlow, those were all in a branch. Likewise, when Nebula and Rhodey, when Black Widow and Hawkeye went back to the Vormir, that was not, they created a branch. So technically the Red Skull they met was a variant because they created a branch the minute they went back in the time heist. So anyway, watch my time travel video for more on that, but I actually believe these are all variants. Okay, so here's what's crazy. A ton of them die, and some of them, and I came up with this new symbol just for this movie, just don't exist anymore. All right, so let's talk about this. So obviously Thanos, the Thanos variant, and everybody who came forward from 2014, dead. However, the other time heist folks, whether it's Sitwell and Pierce or Red Skull, etc., once Captain America returned the Infinity Stones, boop, their branch ceased to exist. So they didn't really die, they just vanished. So I'm not counting them as a death. They did not raise the death counter, and I'm not creating a branch doesn't exist anymore counter. All right, and then on the other hand, I am going to give Ross a reformed, on probation, because he did show up at Tony's funeral. That was nice. He wasn't at least villainous. I don't know that he really did anything heroic, but he's not villainous. So he got a probation. Oh my goodness. Endgame was cray-cray. All right. None of the rest of them are as hard as that. Okay, Spider-Man Far From Home. We got Mysterio, and we got his crew. Now, granted, I don't always include henchmen. But since Gutman and William and Janice all got names and had specific functions throughout the movie, I had a lot of people say, you really should include them. So I did. I included them. That makes sense. And then J. Jonah Jameson finally showing up. And yeah, he's a villain, if nothing else, for giving out misinformation everywhere he goes. So at the end of the movie, 4 still alive and 1 dead. I'm going to call Mysterio dead. I may regret that if we ever see him appear again. But I think there's a couple things. Number one, he sure seemed to be dead because his illusions were turned off. You know, the drones were turned off. But also, Peter Parker wouldn't have been arrested and treated like he was if they didn't have a body, if they couldn't prove he was dead. So I think they did find his dead body, and, you know, we won't see him again. But I would love to be proven wrong. So put in the comments if you think Mysterio is still alive. I'm totally fine with that. WandaVision, very interesting. So we get Agatha. We get Wanda coming in reformed. We haven't seen her in a while, but yep, she's reformed. We get White Vision, who comes in very villainous at first. Haywood, oh my. And then Pietro, fake Pietro. I'm going to call him a villain simply because he was such an antagonist in the series. So I do understand that he was under control by Agatha. So you could argue he's not really a villain because he wasn't meaning to do it. But I don't know. He was in it for so long, was so involved. I'm going to call him a villain for now. All right. But by the end, he's definitely reformed. I mean, once they get that spell off of him, he helps. He's fine. Wanda, however, she makes a villainous turn. Not only what she did to Westview, but at the end, looking at the Darkhold, not good. Not good at all. So, yeah, villain. And then White Vision, I mean, he stopped being a villain, but he kind of just left. So, he's on probation. I don't know whether he's going to turn good or bad. I presume good. But right now, anything can happen with him. All right, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Lots of good villains. We got the Flag Smashers, U.S. Agent, love him. Patrick comes back. Zemo comes back. Val comes back. And Sharon turns out to be the power broker. So she takes a villainous turn. All right, by the end of the episode, several deaths, couple deaths. Zemo's pretty clear. He's still on probation. I mean, the guy's still in jail. U.S. Agent is interesting. I had some people saying, hey, he's heroic. What are you doing? He's so sketch. I mean, yes, he did a very heroic thing. He helped at the end. But the fact that he's still working with Val, Thunderbolts, and the fact that his anger, like you remember in Captain America, the First Avenger, they said that the super soldier serum amplifies the things about you. So it amplified the good in Steve Rogers. It's amplified the anger, the pride, the arrogance in U.S. Agent. So maybe I'm being unfair. I'm calling him on probation. And then again, Val, still on probation after this. Okay. Then we have Loki. Loki gave us He Who Remains, gave us Ravonna, gave us Eliath, Loki, variant Loki, and variant Sylvie. By the end, we had a couple deaths. I do believe, once again, Loki has reformed, so great. Sylvie, not so much. I mean, she killed He Who Remains, basically created the whole multiverse and all kinds of problems. Of course, we wouldn't have all the awesomeness of Phase 4, 5, and 6 if not for Sylvie, so yay Sylvie. But, yeah, created a lot of problems. All right, What If? What If gave us Infinity Ultron, Killmonger variant, Arnim Zola variant, which again showed us there are multiple copies of the AI, at least in that universe, and gave us Strange Supreme. Okay, so by the end, we had Infinity Ultron dead. We had Killmonger and Arnim Zola both kind of combined and trapped by Strange Supreme, who was definitely redeemed by the end. All right, Shang-Chi. We get Wen Wu, we get the Dweller in Darkness, we get the Death Dealer, we get the Abomination, we get a Razor Fist, and we get Xialing. So, by the end of that, we get several deaths. I'm going to call Razor Fist and Xialing on probation. The reason I'm doing that is I just can't tell whether they're going to turn good or bad with the Ten Rings organization. You know, Xialing is taking it over. Where's she going to go with it? I don't want to assume the worst, but I don't want to assume the best either. So they're on probation. Wen Wu, however, unfortunately continues in the chain of events we've seen in so many other movies where he reforms and then he dies. Very heroic death. Awesome dude. Awesome villain. Real shame to see him go, but a great death. Very great death. All right. Eternals. We have Icarus. We have Sprite. We have Crow. And all the deviants, but I'm just representing them with just Crow. And we get Arishem. By the end of the movie, Icarus is reformed and Sprite is reformed because they both end up joining the Unimind. Even though Icarus in particular was a real pain. Well, so was Sprite, stabbed Cersei. But they both, at the end of the day, do join the Unimind to basically stop the Eternal from being birthed. And the Deviants are dead by the end. But once again, we have a death. We have a heroic turn and then a death. Now, I did have a couple people say, hey, are you sure Icarus is dead? No, we didn't see his body like literally, burst into flames. But there's nothing to indicate that flying into the center of the sun wouldn't kill him. And I think it's just a poetic thing that they decided to make him like the Icarus of legend that flew too close to the sun. So I'm pretty sure he's dead. Hey, again, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. Tell me in the comments, but I do believe he's dead. All right. Then we have Hawkeye. Hawkeye brought us Eleanor Bishop and Kazi and Kingpin, the tracksuits, who I'm representing just with one, Echo and Yelena. And then by the end, I'm going to put Echo on probation because, I guess she was heroic. But she kind of left angry. Obviously shot Kingpin. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. Yelena, thank goodness, she didn't kill Hawkeye. That's great. But I don't even remember if she said she was sorry. Sorry for beating him savagely. And the bottom line is, I don't know that she's proven that she's going to do good. I don't think she's ever going to be evil. I don't think she's a villain by any means, but she's so misguided. She's so willing to do whatever someone she views as a father or mother figure or sister figure, however you look at it. She's looking to others for direction. Until she's willing to go, no, I'm going to stand up on my own, I'm going to have to put her on probation. And obviously, she also appears in the Thunderbolts, which is total sketch. All right, so Kazi. I did have some people in the previous video say, hey, he's dead, dude. He was stabbed and he's dead. If you watch it really closely, he's stabbed in the stomach, and Echo gently lays him down and then leaves. We don't see him die. I'm going to go with, if you don't see the body, I don't think he's dead. But we'll see. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking he's going to show up in Echo. Likewise, Kingpin was basically shot in the head. But we saw that he survived that in the comics, so he's going to survive it here too. And I'm certain he's going to show up in Echo, if not Daredevil Born Again, but very likely Echo. So, all right, there you go. Spider-Man No Way Home. Lots of variants. Basically Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Electro, Sandman, and Lizard. Oh my goodness, all the best. And then we end up getting, I only call it a variant because obviously it's the Venom from the Venom Sony universe. A drop of him ends up showing up in 616. So technically a variant in that standpoint. And then J. Jonah Jameson reappears. So lots of reformed. That's awesome. That shows how awesome Spider-Man is, that so many of his villains he worked so hard to reform, even after what the Green Goblin did to Aunt May. Oh, man. I'm going to put the Venom symbiote on probation. Obviously, in the Venom movies, it's more of like an anti-hero, but we don't know what this Venom droplet, if you will, is going to do. If it forms forms a symbiotic relationship with someone and they turn evil, then okay, it's evil, but it may not. I'm just putting it on probation for now because we just don't know where it's going to end up. All right. Then we have Moon Knight. And Moon Knight has Harrow and Amit, and Anton, who in the comics at least would have become the Midnight Man. Unfortunately, tragically, the actor died after making the Moon Knight series. But at least in the series, he's still alive in universe, and we lose Harrow and we lose Amit. And some people said, shouldn't you count Khonshu as a villain? Yeah, I guess. Not on the same level as Amit and Harrow. He's annoying. He's more than willing to take advantage of Moon Knight, but he also resurrected him, so he kind of owes him. I don't know. Khonshu's a tough one, but definitely Harrow and Amit were villains. All right, then we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now we get Sinister Strange. We get Wanda coming in as a full-fledged villain. We get Mordo from the 838 universe. We get Gargantos and then the Ribbon Monster. So, by the end of the movie, we have several deaths. We have Wanda. So first of all, I'm not calling Wanda dead because if you look real closely at the end of the movie, there's a red flash of chaos magic as she falls off the cliff with all of the building, surrounding her, all the crumbling building. I think that red flash of chaos magic was either her teleporting or creating a protective barrier. She may have been fine with dying. It could have even been subconscious protecting her. But either way, she's not dead. That red flash of magic was Marvel saying, hey, she's alive. I guarantee she's going to show up again in probably Agatha's series. I believe she's alive. Mordo, I definitely think is a villain because by the end of Multiverse of Madness, I think he wants revenge. I think we're going to see a lot more of 838, Mordo, and anybody left showing up to come after 616 folks. The Illuminati, some people said, hey, aren't the Illuminati villainous? No, I actually don't think they are. They were trying to protect their world. That's fine. That's what they're there for. Strange pops in the world with America Chavez, creates the risk of an incursion. The Strange in their universe really did go kind of crazy and cause all kinds of problems. So I don't No, I do not think the Illuminati were villains. I do think Mordo, by the end of the movie, though, was a villain. All right. Then we have Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel has Najma and the clandestine. I'm not putting all the clandestine because honestly, they were kind of no names, but Najma wasn't, so she deserves credit. And then Deaver, Agent Deaver from Damage Control, really a villain throughout that series. All right, so Najma dies. Deaver, I'm telling you, Damage Control is going to have a big role in Phase 5. They are going off the rails, if you will. So that's Miss Marvel. All right, Thor: Love and Thunder. We have Gore, Zeus, and Hercules. And by the end, we have Gore being redeemed, making that a beautiful turn of events at the end. Unfortunately, right before he dies. So yet again, that pattern. Man, it's tough. And then, of course, Zeus and Hercules seeking revenge on Thor. And then She-Hulk. Oh, my goodness. So much going on in She-Hulk. Okay, so we've got Todd. We got Titania. We've got Abomination. We've got Leapfrog. We got the Wrecking Crew. And then we got all those folks in Abomination's retreat, Porcupine and Alaquila and Manbull and Saracen. Sorry, I didn't say those in the right order, but you get the idea. So yeah, lot of villains. By the end, you can argue everyone in the retreat is reformed, and Wrecker is actually reformed. One of the Wrecking Crew, not all of them, but one of them. And then I'm gonna go with On Probation for Abomination, because the way he acted was kind of sus the whole way through, but particularly at the end, he was willing to be broken out of jail. That's illegal. That's the bottom line. I mean, number one, he kept turning off his GPS monitoring. That's illegal. So that got him in trouble. And then, of course, when they put him back in jail, well, then he was turning into Abomination, which is illegal. And then when they put him in jail, he escapes with Wong. So, yeah, On Probation. I love Abomination, not trying to be mean, but yeah, the dude is on probation. All right, Werewolf by Night. We get Verosa and all the hunters. Well, at least until the end of the episode, in which case they're all dead. So, wow, a lot of carnage, man. A lot of carnage in Werewolf by Night. All right, then we got Black Panther. Gave us Namor, gave us Tuma, gave us Namorita, and we saw Val again. Good old Val sitting there on probation, right? By the end of the movie, I'm going to put Namor on probation. I mean, he probably should just be flat out villain, because he did a lot of bad stuff in the movie. But then again, it was understandable. He was protecting his race, protecting his kingdom. But I think the fact that he's fine with letting the world and Wakanda battle it out, yeah, he's on probation for now. I mean, you can kind of consider On Probation to be anti-hero, kinda. It's not really the same. But yeah, I need Namor to do something heroic before I take him off probation. All right. So there you go. That is all the villains. Now let's do some analysis. So here are all of the secondary villains that died. When I say secondary villain, I kind of mean like it's just not the main villain of whatever movie or series they were in. I'm not diminishing them. Some of these were kind of cool, but they were the henchmen, if you will, if you can call like the Destroyer a henchman, for example. But you get the idea. So all of these folks died. Several variants. In fact, I considered all the Black Order, Nebula to be secondary because they had such a small role in Endgame. Then we have the dead primary villains. These are the ones that really hurt to see them go. Really hurt. I mean, look at that top row, man. Those are some big, even the second row, but those are some big folks that really, really hurt to see them go. Notice now the Black Order I am including there on the second row. Some of these, like Arnim Zola, could potentially be alive. We'll see. And then the bottom row, those weren't some of the most popular villains. Pierce was great, but some of those weren't the most popular villains, but they were still the primary villain of the movies they were in. So, secondary villains, primary villains. And by the way, remember, totals, I guess I should call that out. Dead villains, 74. Let's focus on that for a minute. 74 dead villains. Alive, 53. Probation, 17. And reformed, 22. So, you can add that up. Total villains, well over 130 villains. Good night. And that's not including all the henchmen and all that craziness. Lot A lot of villains. Okay, so back to what I was saying. So we have the secondary villains there. We have the primary villains. Okay, then I promised I would do this. These are dead but reformed. These are the folks that died valiantly. Pretty good class of villains there. They turned towards good and paid the price, but still nice to memorialize them in their own special slide there. All right, then we have reformed. These are all the villains that officially are not villains anymore. Interestingly, there's Bucky and Red Guardian, who of course join the Thunderbolts. But yeah, the rest of them are all just basically either heroes or neutral, going on with life, no longer as a villain. All right, then we have the on probation. And the top row, Thunderbolts. So what a surprise that the majority of the Thunderbolts are on probation, right? I still think Zemo there on the second row needs to join the Thunderbolts. I'm going to be really annoyed if he doesn't end up joining them. And then Ross, and I want Abomination to join too. Then Ross, of course, the actor died, but they brought him back as Harrison Ford playing the role because he's going to turn into Red Hulk. So that's going to be interesting. So yeah, these are all the folks that may end up being heroes, may not. We'll have to see. Then we have everybody who's still alive. We saw a ton get killed, yes, but there's a lot that are alive too. So I call these again secondary because, you look at the top row, they're almost all, for the most part, normal, non-superpowered. And in fact, the far right on the top row, those three have all passed, unfortunately, so we won't see them again. And then, I don't know. I don't mean to be mean to any of these villains, but they're alive, but they're all secondary. Namorita, you might say, hey, don't be mean to her. She just didn't have a big role in Wakanda Forever is all. I think she's going to have a big role going forward. I hope. She's really cool, but she didn't do a lot. Then the primary villains that are still alive. So we mourned all the dead ones, and we saw all the reformed ones that aren't villains anymore, but this is still a pretty good group of villains. The top row is basically Spider-Man row, with Kingpin being Daredevil or Spider-Man. And then you've got, some really good villains here. Several who are going to appear again. Some who we may never see again. Then on the bottom row, there's my buddies, Grandmaster and Collector. Really hope we see them hanging out together at some point. So, yeah, there's still some good villains alive. There's no doubt that Marvel has killed way more villains than they kept alive, which is a bummer. But still some good ones alive. All right, so there you have it. That is the State of Villainy. So now, let's go to Phase 5 and bring on the bad guys, right? What's kind of cool is almost everybody on this old book that Stan Lee wrote years ago, almost everybody's been introduced. Mephisto, we should get very soon. We're hearing rumors. And Doctor Doom. And everybody else has all been introduced. So there you have it, State of Villainy in all its glory. So like this video if you don't mind. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out more content. And in the meantime, we can all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe.